All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am Commodore Matthew Meyer, 8th District, Eastern Region. I'd like to welcome everyone for being here. We have a great program this morning and this afternoon. We will be holding online educational classes for those of you online, and this is actually all for you. This morning, I'd like to take a moment and welcome our guest speakers. We have Captain Amy Beach from Sector Ohio Valley. We have Captain Tracy Phillips from 8th District. We have Commander Heyman from our DTRAIN 8 Eastern Region. We have Deputy National Commodore Thomas Mullally and National Commodore Alex Molesky. This morning we'll have these speakers give us some valuable information, and then we will move on to our educational classes. So at this time, I would like to have Captain Beach take the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore. Captain Amy Beach, as they said, the sector commander at Sector Ohio Valley. That area stretches all the way up from Pittsburgh down just across the border of Mississippi. So we have about 8,300 miles of navigable water that we're responsible for, and not a lot of assets along those ways. So we really depend on the auxiliary support to help us with a number of our missions along those 8,300 miles of navigable water throughout the AOR. Just a little background on me. I've been in the Coast Guard for 26 years. I am not an Academy grad, though I often get accused of that. I started in the prevention, then called marine safety. So I grew up doing pollution response type activities, facility inspections, and then switched over to vessel inspections. But I've had a very varied career in terms of what I've done. I've done waterways management, I've done inspections, I've done just about everything within the marine safety field that can be done. And through that, I've gotten to meet and work with a lot of auxiliaries over the years and get an enormous amount of support, be it doing ATON verification for us, going out and checking the status of private aids as well as our federal aids, helping us with, throughout the Coast Guard, there's a problem with abandoned and derelict vessels. And we've used auxiliary support to not only build databases, with pictures and descriptions that we can use. So when the command center gets a report, one of the first things they can do is go in to this database, see if it's a vessel that matches what we already have in the database, and then we know, okay, that's indeed derelict or something new that we need to look at. So it saves us an enormous amount of time and resources to have something like an abandoned vessel, derelict vessel database. I don't think we have one currently at Sector Ohio Valley, but we get a lot of derelict vessel calls. So if anyone is interested in helping us with that program, there's definitely a need for help throughout Sector Ohio Valley's AOR. We have gotten a lot of reports, as probably not surprising. With COVID, a lot of people bought recreational vessels, watercraft, and really got out on the water. And yet, because of COVID, auxiliary and active duty were not as much of a presence over the past year. And we've gotten a lot of complaints, Norris Lake, Kentucky Lake, of boaters that are not following rules of the road, don't really understand how to operate their craft, and are quite dangerous out there. It's not surprising that in areas, we used to have a boathouse in Nashville, and when that boathouse went away, we started to see an increase in accidents, deaths down in the Nashville area. So where are we now sending, our vessels and teams from Paducah and Louisville? We send them down, to the Nashville area. We do get a lot of support from auxiliary there, and I greatly appreciate it. It helps. The education, just doing the Marina walks and talking to them. We were we had the reserves go down to the Nashville area, and they were finding that some of the marinas were renting out boats, but these boats, they weren't giving any kind of instruction to the people renting them on how to operate them. There were no life vests, none of the basic safety equipment that were on there. And the first thing the reserves came back and said is, you really need to get auxiliary down here, as soon as you can to take a look at these things, because there's a lot of potential danger with what's going out on your lakes in your AOR. So I am desperately looking for auxiliary support in a number of the lakes. Like I said, Kentucky Lake, Norris Lake, and some of the other areas. We know it's going on. We know illegal charters are going on in some of the larger areas like Cincinnati. We caught illegal passenger vessel charter, and the person knew that they usually it's just an education thing of, hey, these are the rules and laws, and you can help get them on their way to being within line with the law. But this person had been educated, and they continued to keep operating that way, and we're sure that there's more of that going on. Up in the Knoxville area, the University of Tennessee is looking at having an automated ferry system, so no one on board to take football fans across a very busy stretch of water, potentially. So all I'm thinking is, great, the thing, the engine goes down, and now I have, people on this vessel drifting down the river with tank barges and things like that. The potential is just very bad. And so that's another area where I think auxiliary could be a great service to us. Just the information of what is going on our waterways that you all provide is invaluable. We just don't have the boats and the people to go out there to really know in the level of detail that I think we need of what's going on our waterways. Any information that you can get to us, and pictures are great. Pictures that you take of scenes are absolutely invaluable to us. And I wouldn't, the Coast Guard has tons of programs, whether it's, paddle safe and things like that for auxiliary. But if there's something that you as an individual are passionate about and are interested in doing, reach out to us. It doesn't have to be necessarily a formal program that comes down from national or auxiliary. If you're really passionate about, going into schools and working with the kids about safe boating, I mean, we've got the PI program, where we send people in and, work with kids in the local schools. And I just think we limit ourselves in what we can use aux support for, and if we just kind of open up the door and find out what you all are interested in doing, that we can support you guys in doing a lot of those things, things we never even thought of, that would be like, yeah, that's absolutely great. That would be incredibly helpful to us. So, please, if you have an idea of a project or something that you're passionate about, that you think can promote safety on the water, anything along those lines, I would say most Coast Guard units are game. They will support and appreciate that kind of assistance. Jim Brendel yesterday from MSD Cincinnati talked about, when they had the Ludlow Bromley Marina incident, which could have been a lot worse. The towing vessel, the pilot fell asleep, missed the turn, went in and took out entire marina, a number of vessels, the restaurant associated with the marina, And he had to get up and go in front of the cameras and give a press brief. And who was it that wrote all the information? It was an auxiliarist. So a lot of you have public affairs backgrounds, and Coast Guard has public affairs, but they're not at every unit, and we can really use someone with knowledge of media and that expertise to help us in situations such as that. And Jim just basically got up there and read what had been given to him, and he did a great job. Like I said, if there's anything of particular interest or passion, please let us know. We really do enjoy having auxiliary come into the office and be around, not just separate and go out on the boats, but come into the office and be, kind of a part of the team on a regular and full-time basis. I think there's an enormous amount that both sides get out of that, and especially the more junior members who are just learning about auxiliary for the first time. And that's certainly, it started at a very young and junior age for me, getting involved with auxiliary, and it's caused me to remain very passionate about the auxiliary and try and support as much as possible. And as I said yesterday, make some lifelong friends that I've had from the auxiliary. So I'll close with just saying that we really are in need of your help, in need of getting those areas where we see a lot of high recreational density traffic that we just can't hit on a routine basis with our own small boats. And I think any kind of presence, be it auxiliary or active duty, will have a huge impact on the boating safety throughout Sector Ohio Valley's AOR. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take questions. I don't know if anyone in the group here has it. I don't know if the online function offers it either, but if there's no questions, all right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. Now I would like to introduce Captain Tracy Phillips, if you would please come up. Thank you, Captain.
Thanks, Commodore. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to those of you who are joining us online this morning. It's great to have you with us. I'm Captain Tracy Phillips. I'm the Chief of Prevention at the 8th Coast Guard District down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about myself and my career. So I am going on 24 years in the Coast Guard. My husband is also an active duty Coast Guard member. He also is approaching 24 years in the Coast Guard. We have 2 children, an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. And we've bounced around the Coast Guard, so I like to say we've covered all 4 coasts of the United States. Been out in San Francisco twice, been over in DC twice, been down in New Orleans twice, and spent a couple years in Michigan, so that covered the Great Lakes portion. It's been really enjoyable. I spent my first 2 years on a Coast Guard cutter, a buoy tender, and then after that I've spent the rest of my career in our Coast Guard's prevention area, working on marine safety functions. My first run-in with the auxiliary, actually, I've had a lot of opportunities throughout my career and all my jobs to get to know the auxiliary and to see some of the amazing things that you do. But my first interaction with the auxiliary actually started before I entered the active duty Coast Guard. So I started my career as a cadet at the Coast Guard Academy. And one of those semesters, I had the opportunity to spend, it was a transfer program, and so I had an opportunity to spend a semester at the Air Force Academy. So it was me and 3 of my classmates. We went out to Colorado, and we went from a school that, was relatively small. I knew everybody in my class, to a big school, about 4 times the size, and we didn't know anybody there. Everybody else in the class that we were going into knew each other and had friends and everything. And so our first weekend out there in Colorado, we got contacted by a Coast Guard auxiliarist. And he said, I live in the area. I wanted to introduce you to the area, get to know you a little bit. And so he took us out on his boat. He took us around on a reservoir. We spent the day enjoying just beautiful weather and getting to know the auxiliarists. And then at the end of the day, we were heading back to the marina, and there was a boat in trouble, and we actually towed it back to the marina. So it was really exciting to have my first search and rescue case as a cadet before I even graduated from the academy. So that was my first interaction with the auxiliary, and it's been fantastic to see all the amazing things that the auxiliary does. I wanted to spend a little bit of my time this morning telling you about how the 8th District and how the prevention mission fits into the Coast Guard. So as you see in the auxiliary, you're broken up into flotillas and divisions, and that allows a chain of leadership so that you don't have too many groups or units reporting to one person. So the active duty Coast Guard side is broken up the same way. We have our Coast Guard headquarters, which is in Washington, D.C., and then from there, the field units are split up into 2 areas. We have the Atlantic area and the Pacific area. Those are pretty easy to understand based on geography. And then from there, the areas are broken down into districts. So the 8th District is where I work, and that covers a big stretch of the middle of the country. So the 8th District covers all or part of 26 different states in the central United States. It starts down on the Gulf Coast from Corpus Christi all the way across the Gulf to the panhandle of Florida. And then we go up north all the way to North Dakota, and as far east as Pittsburgh, and as far west as Colorado and New Mexico. So it covers a broad span. Captain Beach told you about one of the 7 sectors that falls under the 8th District. There's 6 others, and within those sectors, we have many cutters, we have a lot of marine safety units and marine safety detachments. So there's a lot of field units out there. So the job of the 8th District, we provide support and assistance and guidance to all of those sectors and field units out there, and we provide the support for the cutters out there. The prevention side of things, so our mission is to try and go out and get involved with commercial vessels and facilities and look at those, try and keep them safe, and prevent anything from happening before it turns into a search and rescue case. So my division in particular at the 8th District, we look at commercial vessel inspections to check the boats, see if they're safe, and then investigations. If something bad happens, we go out and we investigate it to try and determine what happened so we can see if we can prevent it from happening again. That's one half of my job. The other half of my job is overseeing auxiliary operations. And auxiliary and the prevention mission fit in nicely together because of all the work the auxiliary does to assist with recreational boating safety. We've had a little bit of a discussion about how do you measure the value of your work as auxiliarists because you're preventing things from happening, and so you never know if they were going to happen or not. How do you keep track of that? And so we've been really struggling that with the active duty side as well. How do we measure that? And so one of the things that we've decided to do this year is track all of the vessels that we are detaining. And so we check these boats out, we look at them and we say, you know what, this boat is in such bad shape, we are telling it it can't leave the dock. On the active duty side, we call that a detention. If you were on the recreational boating safety side, you might just say that you're holding the boat at the dock until you get the right number of life jackets, or maybe they terminate the voyage and they bring them back to the dock until they have fire extinguishers or the appropriate emergency positioning device if they're offshore, so any of those types of things. But what we've said is okay, because these boats were in such bad condition, we told them they can't leave the dock. We are counting every person that was on that boat as a life saved. And so what we've done is we've said, okay, it took our inspectors maybe 6 hours to do this inspection. There were 4 inspectors. We calculate the cost of the resources that the Coast Guard expended to save those lives. And then we compare that to the cost it would have been if a person had to go out and rescue somebody for an incident that happened on one of these boats if, say, we weren't there to prevent it from happening. So the interesting numbers, we've had a number of detentions so far this year, And all of the figures have come out that it's cost us maybe $200 to $400 per life saved. And then we went and we calculated 2 search and rescue cases. So one of them was a rescue on a fishing boat. It was just a little ways offshore. We sent out a helicopter, we sent out a small boat, and we hoisted 2 people off of that boat and brought them back to safety because it was sinking. And it cost the Coast Guard about $22,000 per life saved. And then we did another case, which was much further offshore, so it was 250 miles offshore. So you can imagine the logistics associated with that were quite a bit higher. And it cost the Coast Guard about $120,000 to save 2 people off of this sinking boat that was 250 miles offshore. And so when you walk back and you say, okay, it cost us only $200 or $400 to save the lives by preventing something from happening, that's really important when you start thinking about recreational boating safety and how all of the work that the auxiliary does is preventing bad things from happening. So if you're out on a vessel, you convince somebody that they need to file a float plan, they don't get lost, or if they do get lost, we're able to quickly find them. That is all really valuable work that the auxiliarists are doing, and that is something we really need. Captain Beach talked to you a little bit about some of the areas that we need assistance with, some of the recreational boating safety numbers. It's interesting because if you look at the Coast Guard, the way our sectors are staffed and the way our field units, our marine safety units are staffed, we are staffed based on the number of commercial vessels that we inspect or the number of commercial facilities that we check. We are not staffed based on the number of recreational boats that are associated with that field unit or that are in that area. And so that's why there's some of those gaps that Captain Beach talked about. So she has such a wide area. There's a lot of recreational boating activity, and it's very, very important for us to get the Coast Guard auxiliary support. It's been enjoyable spending time here at the Eastern Region meeting because I've gotten to hear some of the amazing things that auxiliarists have been able to do and participate with. And I really look forward to hearing some more about what we have to do. I'm a little nervous. I heard that the forecast is we're going to have another active hurricane season. So I know that there's ways to get auxiliarists involved and ready to assist and support in hurricane season. We already talked about the recreational boating activity. Captain Beach mentioned, if there's other areas that auxiliarists are interested in supporting in, we're very excited to hear that. I know I've come away from this meeting with some ideas of things that I could ask auxiliarists to assist with, so I'm excited about that. Look forward to hearing about all the great things that are going to happen with the auxiliary in 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Captain. That was very informative. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask Commander Heyman. She is the Director of Auxiliary for 8 Western and Eastern Region. Commander?
Thank you, Commodore. Good morning, everyone out there. And whenever you're watching this, whether it's today, live, or in the future, I just want to say thank you for watching and attending and trying to learn. So I want to start by talking about myself, let you know who I am. Many have heard this story, but some have not. So my name is Suzanne Heyman. I came to the Coast Guard through the auxiliary, and so it's really exciting to be part of the work that the auxiliary is doing now. I am what some lovingly call an AIMSTER, so that's the Academy Introductory Mission. And that mission is something where the auxiliary really significantly impacts the Coast Guard in a really varied way. And a lot of talents and skills of auxiliaries get used in that program. And it is a way to bring in young high school students, some that know what they want, some like myself that didn't know what we wanted and stumbled upon the program, to come to the Coast Guard Academy for a week and get run around and beat up and see what it's all about. And I was fortunate that I was supposed to be going to English class one day, and I was going to skip class, frankly. But I decided not to, and I went to class, and in walked my guidance counselor, who's a woman I never saw otherwise. This was not a school that reached out to students and helped coach along the way to college. So she came in and she said, well, I was approached by the auxiliary, and there's this program, and you can go and it's free, and by the way, college is free if you go there, and you get a job, and it's wonderful, and all of those things they tell you, that recruiters tell you, that are great about joining the military. And it just sort of struck me, and I thought, okay, well, I'll check it out. And I applied, and I fortunately my sponsor for that program was the wife of the flotilla commander locally, and so they got to know me before I interviewed. And when I came out of the interview, he said, frankly, that wasn't a great interview, but I've gotten to know you, so I was able to really advocate for you because you didn't really shine as you should have in that interview. So not an auspicious start to my career, but I went to the academy and I fell in love with the Coast Guard. I hated every second of that week at AIM, and I fell behind in the runs, and I twisted my ankle, and I fell off of every obstacle on the obstacle course, and I sat there and I thought, oh man, I can't do this. Because they show you all these statistics about how, it's 90% of applicants or some crazy number are the valedictorian and salutatorian of their class, and they're all 3-star athletes and, 3-sport lettermen and varsity athletes. And I thought, oh man, this is not me. But I really just had this feeling I needed to be there. And so that's how it started. And I really look back fondly, and I'm so thankful for that opportunity, and I know it continues today. So I know Academy Partners are one area where we see a lot of service from auxiliarists, and if you're interested at all in that, I really can't encourage that any more highly, because it changes lives, and it changed my life. And that brought me to the Coast Guard, brought me to my husband, and of course, then to my lovely children and the fantastic life that I have at this point. So after the Coast Guard Academy, I was on a cutter for 2 years in California, and that was, of course, a great adventure as a student engineer. Very much enjoyed that time. And then I joined the prevention community, as the captains talked about. That's such an interesting and varied community, and that's why we do understand that the auxiliarists fit well into the prevention world. And so in our structure, auxiliary falls under prevention at the headquarters level and at the district level as well. So I was at New Orleans, where I was stationed again with Captain Phillips, was in New Orleans for a couple of years. Then I went overseas to Activities Far East, which is our office in Japan, which was a fantastic job, because you may not know or understand there are there are U.S. commercial vessels and some U.S. military and military support vessels that are stationed overseas, and the Coast Guard works to facilitate inspections over there. So I got to travel throughout the Far East. I even made it to Australia for an inspection, and then I thought in my young 22-year-old way that I would jaunt over to New Zealand, not realizing how far New Zealand really is from Australia, but I did make it to New Zealand briefly. So the Coast Guard has brought me that joy of travel as well. So then back to headquarters, went to graduate school, again stationed with Captain Phillips at our headquarters office. So I've gotten to see the inside machinations of how programs work and how we get things done in the organization. So I am happy to bring some of that perspective to my role as a director. After that, went to Texas City, which is outside of Galveston, a little bit north of Galveston. Was a fantastic, exciting tour. Learned certainly quite a bit about prevention. Unfortunately, though, all this way, I haven't mentioned much auxiliary connection, and I really regret that. Certainly, as a young officer, I didn't know the value of how the auxiliary connected, and certainly I wasn't in offices that used a lot of supportive auxiliarists. But I will say there was an auxiliarist in Japan. Well, he lives in Singapore, I believe, that helped as a public affairs specialist and a translator. And so there are unique and varied opportunities all around the world for auxiliarists, and there still are some overseas at this point. And then back to headquarters, again with Captain Phillips, to a headquarters unit which was stationed, co-located with headquarters. I worked again with Captain Phillips. So we've had a long history, and we were steeped in the same leadership school, which is the school that also Admiral Netto, our current district commander, is from. So, which is a fantastic value to me as a director, because I know or I believe I know, the things that she needs to hear, the things she wants to hear, the things that the Admiral wants to hear, and some of his perspectives. And also, of course, it gives me a much more direct line to the Admiral when it comes to auxiliary issues, because that is my role. And I did a presentation recently, we called it Coast Guard or DTRAIN 101, really explaining the job, but briefly I'll let everyone that's listening that didn't get to hear that know my role, how I fit in. So you heard Captain Beach talk about the operational Coast Guard here. She's in charge of this whole large area of Coast Guards, men and women that are doing those operational day-to-day jobs. You've got Captain Phillips, who works at the district, and she's responsible for the prevention mission through this humongous AOR. District 8, if you didn't know, to many, District 8 is a jewel. And so that is why we continue to receive the top quality officers and captains and admirals that come into the role as district commander. And so it's no surprise that we have such a great support. The auxiliary has great support and connection to your district commanders. And our next district commander, some of you may remember as Captain Timmy, that was here in Sector Ohio Valley. So you have a great friend in him in that he understands auxiliary well, and he understands your AOR, your needs very well. But he understands what you could do for him. So be careful of that, because that's always challenging, right? He knows where the holes are, and he knows what can be done to fix those holes. So that's a value and perhaps a concern for some. So back to the process here. So I work for Captain Phillips, right? So she's got this programmatic view, and I have this smaller view. And fortunately, I work, so as I was introduced, I'm introduced as the Eastern Region and the Western Rivers Region Director, which is really fun and unique. Not many directors have two regions, some do, and when it makes sense, they've combined those. So for us, it makes sense. I have essentially all of the inland Mississippi and Ohio Valley. And there's another director in the coastal region who handles the District 8 along the coast. Those are two very different needs, very different auxiliary makeup, dynamics and demographics, and how it works. And so that makes sense, and what makes sense is being able to share across the western to eastern region and help facilitate some of those special needs you all have inland versus our friends on the coast, where there are stations everywhere, where there's more opportunities for auxiliaries to get out to stations in small boats and get out to facilitate and connect with the Coast Guard, where we don't have that same bit here inland. So it makes a different challenge. So I've been in this job for 2 years at this point, and it's been a very fast 2 years, and it's been a very interesting 2 years. It's given me a perspective that many directors did not have until this point, in that typically the director doesn't see much of the day-to-day activity of what's going on. We get the reports, we may see the monthly reports from meeting minutes, which is why it's important for those reports to come forward and be detailed, because otherwise the director, the captain, the admiral may not know all of the fantastic things that are happening out there, may not understand the deep connections that the auxiliaries have to their regions and communities. And so this is my plug as a director specifically, those monthly reports, that information you pass up to your chain of leadership is so vital. And the more detail, the more concise detail, it sounds like a oxymoron there, but the more specific detail that's in a clear format that can be presented really helps, because Captain will tell you, there are emails that get forwarded along to me and I'll just pass on to her and I'll say, Captain, I just want to let you see this exciting thing that happened. And certainly if there's pictures, even better. But so the information and activities that are happening do make it up. So show off a bit. Show off. The captain, the admiral are always asking for anecdotes for what's happening. We want to bring as cheerleaders for 2 minutes. Oh man, I was just on a roll. So as cheerleaders for you all, they need to hear those things. And I will give just a pitch then. So briefly, my role then is a cheerleader. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. I work with the Commodore. He does not work for me. There are certain things I decide as the director. I have the authority to decide. I have the responsibility to decide some discipline issues. those kind of things. But otherwise, I'm here as a partner to the Commodore, and therefore a partner to Captain Beach, a partner to our other Coast Guard units, to make sure that we are best answering the call of our district commander, because that's what it's about. So to wrap up, I want to hit back to what Captain Beach mentioned and what many of you all know. There's been a significant change in the boating public because of COVID-19. This summer is going to be very, very different. And this is a summer where, of course, as both captains have mentioned, we need the most valued auxiliary time and attention. But I want to urge you to remember that everything you see, every sort of change in that demographic should mean that there's a change in how the auxiliary is operating in your area. And so one of the big areas of focus I will spend this year is encouraging, coaching, mentoring leaders, helping the Commodore move this thought along, that we need to be thinking strategically about where forces are being deployed. You know, we need to step back from what we normally do, step back from your normal visits, or if you always do a ramp day at the first weekend in June, well, maybe add a second ramp day, or maybe change the location, because now you're realizing more people are using a different ramp location because you have paddle crafters, because you have more rentals in the area, because, as Captain mentioned, you've got more illegal and maybe unsafe rentals. Maybe you're expanding and changing your outreach to the different community. And so I'll end there and just really thank you again for the service. I've seen it this past year, everything that's been done, the hard work, and I'm excited to have things open up. But I will stop by saying, still, always, every single day, safety should be paramount. And so always, if there's something that you're concerned about, if there's a safety or a COVID or health concern, then stop, take stock of what's happening, and remember that nothing is worth your life. That's what we're here for, to save lives. So nothing is worth life, and we will solve whatever problem needs to be solved if there's a concern. So thank you again, and I will see you all. I can't wait to see you in the fall and see you in continued events. Reminder, Gold Side 101 series continues the second Tuesday of the month at 10 and 7. And so this month will be officer career paths. We'll talk about that and officer relocation issues. And then next month will be enlisted career paths. And you'll see the OTOs talk a bit about how enlisted officer transition works and how they got to their position. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce our Deputy National Commodore, Thomas Mullally. Commodore.
Good morning, 8 Eastern, and in-person D-Train. Wow. So we're here. Folks out in YouTube land, morning. You know, if you're seeing this live, or as Commander Heyman said, maybe, you know, August you're seeing this, good luck. So thank you for the invitation. Again, to Captain Beach for being here, Captain Phillips for being here, and Commodore, appreciate your time. Deputy National Commodore. Okay, what's that? Well, as they explained, especially Captain Phillips stated, she has a large area. The 8th District covers all the way from the Rockies to the Appalachians, coast, Gulf Coast to the Canadian border. I also have the Great Lakes, District 9, which Captain Beach is well aware of. I met her before there. So pretty much my area actually has more shoreline than the East or West Coast, pretty much that way. What do I do? Well, we try to manage 6 Commodores. Our goal is to sit there and establish what the national policy is from the auxiliary standpoint. Commodore Alex Molesky will be following me as the National Commodore. He's going to give a high-level district overview. But again, we're looking at how we want to get back into things. You know, we've been off the water, out of the public eye for about a year, and now it's time to get back out there. As Commander Heyman stated, safety. We are rusty in a lot of areas. So one of the things we got to be careful of is training. And again, I can't say that enough, especially at this D-Train or E-Train, as you're going to be watching online and virtual. This COVID thing was very real. I'm involved in public safety, and actually I got COVID back in October. So, it's hard to stand down, oh, I'm invincible, I wear this uniform with a shield. Yeah, not quite so much. So we have to commend the Coast Guard active duty for protecting us, because we are susceptible. Majority of us are over that age, gotta be careful. I know it's tough. We volunteer. Well, we didn't volunteer to watch TV at home, I'm sitting on the couch. We wanna go out and do things, and now we're starting to. And again, 8th District has been a spearhead to opening back up. They really have. Other districts are still virtual, tight, and they're leading the way on a protocol. Actually, here in the hotel, the safety protocols that the Commodores put together and their planning team, phenomenal. Can't say enough. If they leave the camera, it's back with a mask. There's no contact together or anything like that. Excuse me. So, no, it's not COVID. One of the things we're looking at is we're thinking outside the box. One of the things the Commodore stated was that D8 Eastern has actually recruited a whole bunch of chaplains. I gotta be honest, that's a very high part. We only had a few, and I guess he's almost doubled his number of chaplains. So it's a good effort there. Our medical people, we've been looking for pharmacists. Why? Because a lot of them are starting to be recruited to actually administer the vaccine to the active duty. So those are things we're actually looking for. We're starting to get back out in areas. The southwest border now with the immigrants, we just had all the active duty physicians are now getting deployed over there, and we're backfilling in the clinics. So these are things, again, will it be that way in August when you're seeing this? Don't know. My crystal ball broke. One thing also I talked to the Commodore about in a speech last night, historians. Each district has a history. And as we get older and fall off the roster, new people come in, but you still have a footprint of how this district was established and what it actually pertains to. So even at the district level, how about division level, or even flotilla? Do we have old minutes? The auxiliary manual used to fit in your back pocket. Now you need a briefcase. So things have changed, constantly changing. This pandemic, this was something that really, hurt or helped, depending how you look at it. We're now in a technology world that you're seeing this. We got kicking and screaming all the way to that 21st century. It's working. Beyond that, leadership. A lot of people have been taking the online courses. We have aux ops people coming on board perfectly. As they stop proctoring, the numbers of us achieving aux op have skyrocketed. Same should be true for the leadership competencies. We really need to make sure, the new member, the day you come in, you're going to be a leader. As I stated in public safety, I come to a location in uniform, I automatically have authority. You wearing an ODU or tops in the public, you have authority just by presence of being there. So knowing how to interact with the public, knowing how to sit there and guide the public away from danger, it's an art. And those leadership skills that you take at those leadership competency classes, there's 5 levels online to take. Start taking them, please. They're all worth it. Level 1 is for every member. All right, between that and the BQ2, online class, excellent training. Also, there's social media. We got to be careful with the social media. A lot of us, you post it online, and a lot of us are going to start posting a lot more online when we get back out in the water, doing vessel exams, doing public affairs. But you got to make sure that anything you're going to post, please make sure you go through the district staff officer for public affairs so they bless the content. Sometimes you got to be careful in our endeavors and enthusiasm to put things out there. Sometimes you got to worry about the legal side. So that's always something you got to reach out and be careful of. Videos. If you're making videos, you're allowed to put closing credentials on there now. You can say this was produced by FSO Boomp and Our Flotilla, and market yourself. Sometimes, national level, we look at people's products and want to say, hey, that's pretty good. Maybe this person should go on national staff. You don't work hard enough. We'll put you to work. Not a problem there. Lastly, I think I'm going to close out with email signatures. Unfortunately, a lot of times when we send emails, we say, oh, you know, I'm the immediate past division commander, and I'm the FSO for navigational sciences, and oh, by the way, I'm the SO for, communication services. But you have some that will actually go down way down on the list and fall their past, or present offices. Try to keep that just at what level you're writing the email about. If the email is about vessel exams, you're the FSOVE, or SOVE, or DSOVE, just sign it with just the one. This is from the DSOVE, boom, done. Don't need to go into all the offices you ever had. Some of these get longer than the actual email body itself. Core training also, one thing we gotta make sure, always have that core training done. Again, with us being off so long, we have plenty of opportunity to get it done. So hopefully we can get it fixed at this point in time. I want to mention that this online, yesterday we had online live broadcast, and for a weekday, you actually had 100 people watching at certain points throughout the day. High water mark. You know, this virtual training will never go away. It will always be available now. My share Patrick Brown here has actually spearheaded how to do this. So you have a great person on staff. Couldn't thank you, Commodore, enough. Other than that, I think that's about all I got for here, unless there's more. So, thank you. Good luck in your endeavors.
Thank you, Commodore. At this time, I would like to introduce our National Commodore, Commodore Alex Molesky. Commodore.
Good morning. Now, normally they save the best for last, but today they decided to reverse it. They put me last because I have a face for radio. You know, the Coast Guard officers, very often they talk about their background and how they got where they are today, and I thought maybe I'd do the same. I came home from work, I think it was September of 2000, and my neighbor said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing. Got home early today." He goes, "Get in the car." I go, "Where are we going?" He goes, "Just shut up and get in the car." Now, since this was in New York, that was socially acceptable, and I figured, you know, what do I have to lose? And I found myself at a flotilla meeting. I thought this was interesting, and at the time, my niece had just started as an aimster at the Coast Guard Academy, so I said, let's give this a shot. I was a pilot and a sailor, and I go, you know, maybe I could learn something. So I joined, you know, essentially for selfish reasons. I wanted to fly boats, well, actually, sailboats and fly airplanes. But somewhere along the way, you know, I say I drank the Kool-Aid. The service became more gratifying than the flying and the boating. Though I still enjoy both. I'm still an active coxswain and an aircraft commander, but I got to learn the value of this organization. I got to appreciate what a difference that we can make every day in serving the Coast Guard. And I've had a tremendous time. I always joke, my niece got her first command. She was the commander of an 87-foot cutter, and when I became a flotilla commander, although I think she was a little bit better off, her command was in Kauai, I was in Long Island. Today, she's back in Hawaii. She's the chief of the command center in Honolulu, and her husband, who was also in the academy with her, is the XO of the Kimball, a cutter also out of Honolulu. And today I'm the National Commodore. Who would have thought? But it's been an adventure. I've loved every minute of it. And to see what we can do, to see how the amazing stuff that this organization does, it's rewarding, it's inspiring. You know, this meeting is an example. Commodore Matt, tremendous job. This is great. This is so wonderful to be back at an in-person DTRAIN, and what's even better is now we're doing it hybrid. It's the best of both worlds. But the in-person is critical. The last DTRAIN I attended was in District 1, and it was March of last year. And in the Northern District 1, they were thinking about maybe doing away with the in-person DTRAINs and just having small local events. And I think that's not a good idea. And I was riding up the elevator with a gentleman at the end of the event, and we were discussing, you know, it was a great event. They had the banquet, active duty was there, they gave out awards, and you know, everybody got together. And I said, you know, I hope that we continue with this. This is so important. And he looked at me and he said, he goes, I worked for Sears for 40 years. He goes, the beginning of the end is when we stop the national meetings. This fellowship, this face-to-face meeting, this camaraderie, this is critical to the success of our organization. We're volunteers. This has to be fun. We can't forget the fun aspect of it. The fellowship is critical. If this just becomes drudgery, a job, we're going to go the way of many other organizations. You know, when COVID started, person after person came to me and said this was going to kill the auxiliary. Never believed that for a second, and it hasn't. If anything, we came out stronger. We've developed a whole suite of virtual skills, from training to meetings to elections. We had over 1,000 elections last year. I'm the first national Commodore in the history of this organization that was elected virtually. Back in November, I was at the leadership conference at Coast Guard headquarters, and I mentioned this to the Commandant of the Coast Guard, and he looked at me and he goes, Alex, he goes, is anybody contesting your election? No, they're not. But this is an example of what we could do. And as I said, this is a tremendous job. The safety protocols that are in place are excellent. This is a risk, but this is what we do in the Coast Guard. We deal with risks, and it's always a risk versus gain equation, and I think the gain here justified the risk. But we always have to look at safety in whatever we do. As I said, I'm a pilot and a coxswain. Aviation has an ingrained safety culture. Surface, not so much. But we have to bring that across the whole organization. We have to always look at safety, the way we're looking at safety here. When you're off camera, when we're all wearing masks, we're washing hands, we're socially distanced, we're doing everything we can to remain safe. Yet, there still is an element of risk, but we're mitigating it, we're spreading it out, we're doing everything we can to make this work, and it is working. Long time ago, my mother told me something that I'm sure yours did too. She told me anything worthwhile isn't easy. It's hard. And the things that you work the hardest for are usually the best. Being an auxiliarist isn't easy. You know, between the training, the qualifications, a list of things. It's not easy, and it's not getting any easier. Why? Because we are part of the greatest Coast Guard in the world. We are part of the largest volunteer organization in the world that supports a branch of the military. That doesn't come easy. They have to know, the senior leadership have to know that we're qualified, they have to know that we're trained, and they have to know that when things happen, they can look to us and that we'll be ready to serve. So, thank you again, Matt. Great job. Great to be here, and I look forward to the next DTRAIN I get to go to in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore. Those are some kind words. I would like to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule to share their expertise and their thoughts. I have just a minute or two of update. A brief reminder about the operational and non-operational request forms. We will be using those for the foreseeable future. They're easy to fill out. You can send them directly to me or to Chris Whitaker, depending on which form you want to do. If you're a facility and you like to go out on the water or air, you send it to Chris Whitaker. All the other departments you'll send to me, and then I will forward them to the DIROC's office. Another update would be your high-risk assessment form. If you've had your COVID shot, please update your form. If you've had your first one but are waiting on your second one, just put the date of your second shot on the form and go ahead and update it. I would also like to remind the members that are watching this morning, thank you very much for joining us. Take this back to your flotilla meetings. Let them, remind them that it will be on YouTube, our YouTube channel. This is a great recruiting tool. It's a great conversation starter also, telling members of the public, hey, we've got our own YouTube channel. Why don't you check it out? Give them the link, let them look at it, contact them later and see if they'd like to join. Talk about it at your flotilla and your division meetings. And this today is all for you at home. We understand you couldn't be here. There's a lot of members that are unable or can't make it to these D-Trains, and this is the way we're going to do business in the future. We're going to augment our virtual platform along with in-person training, and hopefully we'll reach a greater audience. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for speaking, and this concludes our speaker portion of the program, and we will move on to our educational series in a moment. Thank you.